The employment or unemployment gap is real. Whether you might be a stay-at-home mom or wife, you got a baby, you stayed at home, raised a baby, you've been out of work for a couple of years, you're trying to get back to work, or maybe with this pandemic, got you unemployed for a certain amount of time because the job you want is scarce, or maybe you just took this time to reflect, whatever the case may be. How would one explain the employment or unemployment gap to favor the eyes of the prospective employer? I'll give you an example. When I was in an interview, but that's one of the questions they asked. Well, what have you done with your time because of this pandemic? I just told them these new skills I acquired, like a little bit of graphic design, a little bit of video editing, in addition to this and that. And they just like, oh, you just made yourself more valuable doing your time. Back to you, answer the question, my man. How does one explain the employment/unemployment gap to a prospective employer?
Well, Nathan, that was actually a perfect example, and I might use you in a second. Okay. But employment gaps are bad. Mm-hmm. You don't want to have employment gaps, but if you do, you need to make sure you back it up with something that's benefiting your life or benefiting the company with some sort of skill that you've learned or have a good reason why. Maybe you got really sick. So, I guess a good doorway out of that question is I got sick for a year. Maybe you had COVID and you had really bad complications after that, or maybe this is a bad one, but you had cancer, but you got over cancer in that time. You're really the only way out is that. Even having kids is not a really good one to say. You should be able to fill in the gap with something that benefited your life career. So like you said, you picked up video editing, you've been interviewing people, you've been providing value to other people by having these interviews, and you've been meeting, great people in the process. And your life career, this gives me really good management skills. It taught me a lot about self-discipline and so on and so on. So you need to give them an example of why you had a gap and back it up with what you've done in that time. And I actually remember I was on an interview, and I don't know why it stuck so strong with me, but it was to be my soon boss, but she said, I love seeing, and we talked about this in the resume building portion of our last conversation. I love seeing that you've always had a good timeline of your work experience, because employers are looking for gaps, and they will ask the question if they see a gap. What did you do between 2017 and 2018? And you need to give them a good example, because if they don't, that shows, personally, that's going to show me that, oh, this dude's lazy or she's lazy. What was she sitting around, or he was sitting around playing Xbox for a year straight? How did you make money? It just doesn't make sense.
Twitch, baby. That was
exactly. So that is something that could really deter you. You could have a great resume in all other aspects, but if you didn't do something for 5 years, everyone, I bet you, even the listeners, well, what were you doing? You don't want to have those gaps. Now, COVID is probably another good excuse because it was hard to find jobs, and you, the listener, are probably saying, well, I actually haven't been working for this long. And then you can just back it up by saying, well, employers weren't hiring in my area. The economy went down pretty hard. I was living off the government payments for a little while. But in the meantime, maybe art, I learned a new skill with art, and I self-disciplined every day. I did one picture, and I read self-improvement books in the meantime, or I started a side business. I was selling my art, whatever it is. I took a Grant Cardone course, and I learned how to be the best salesperson I can be, ready to really hit that next job when they start hiring again. And so you just need to have a really good backup to the excuse of why you had an employment gap, and try to use it, engage it towards the company. So like I just said, if it's a sales manager job, you could say, I took the Grant Cardone course. I really keyed in on my skills. I was selling some stuff on Facebook. I tried to negotiate, blah, 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 this and that. And that really is preparing me for this job. I'm so ready to hit it this year and coming up and be here for a while, something like that. So that's how to explain employment gaps.
Awesome, man. Well, Dan, thank you again for popping in today and dropping some career wisdom on us. And also, Dan's a career coach who specializes in helping people build up their resumes. You can check out the card above on how to resume tips that Dan shared, and also contact him, link in description. Thank you again for watching. Until next time.